Yay! Okay, I think we did it. uh, let's find out. I'm not gonna trust it until I see that it is live. Yay! We're live on Twitch. Good,
Okay.
fabulous. And we're
I think we
live
did it.
on YouTube. Also good, also fabulous. Yay! Wow, that was an absolute nightmare. Hi Moses, welcome to the stream. I'm gonna tweet that we're live. This was a particularly frustrating thing because I didn't get a notification that I needed to update my driver until I tried to go live, and I just did not before then. Even though I did a test recording, and the test recording worked great. How y'all doing? I'm out of coffee. I was drinking with stress in my heart. But let's, Luke, hello, welcome to the stream. It's happening, finally. That was a very painful half hour for me, and hopefully y'all had a chance to, I don't know, grab a snack or something. So yeah, I just had like a little tab open with a list, and when I saw interesting stuff, not all week, I think for the last, I can tell you what the first date I wrote down something was. It was the 26th. So I guess that's the last, 4 days? I just wrote it down, took a note, and was like, hey, maybe people will be interested in this because I find it particularly interesting. So let's jump into my small number of open tabs. And I've put the things that I think are going to make me particularly upset, like this one, at the end, so we can warm up to them. So the first one is an announcement from Spacey, which is an open source NLP toolkit based in Python. Actually, I guess the announcement is from Explosion, which is the company, that they're doing custom tailored pipelines now. So that means that you can talk to somebody from Spacey, like a core developer, and they'll build you a pipeline that you need for your NLP problem, which I think is a great monetization strategy for any open source project to get, you be able to pay for the time of core developers to help work on your problem. Yeah, it sounds really cool. Very useful if you are in need of, a little bit of NLP engineering, but don't need to hire a full engineer. And then the URL for that is, as you can see at the top of the screen, explosion.ai/Spacey tailored pipeline. So I guess congrats to Explosion for the launch. And if that's something that you're looking for, go for it. Also, how cool is this website? Look at a little animation there. Whew, whew. Very neat. I'm not a front-end person, but I can appreciate good front-end work. All right. And then the next tab that I had, I think I only have 9, so I don't have a whole bunch. We're probably not going to use the whole time, especially because I'm frustrated because of the whole drivers thing. Is a little bit of scuttlebutt. So some of you may know Ashish Vaswani. If you do not know who that is, you've probably heard of Transformers, the architecture. He was the first author on the Attention is All You Need paper, where the architecture was proposed. And he's been at Google Brain for a bit now, and he's left. So this is just, cool to know about. And there's going to be a new company / currently is a new company called Adept AI that works on human-computer collaboration, and also they're hiring. There's also a tweet going around, and I don't have it right to hand because I didn't write it down, looking at the people who have left, the machine learning researchers who've left Google Brain in the last little bit. But I mean, people move around, right? It's just a normal thing in tech. So news. Sort of interesting. Good to know about. And then this is a book, and it's not actually out yet, I don't think. Yeah, it's going to come out August 30th. But Dan McQuillan, who's the author, has been doing some Twitter threads on Twitter, going over sort of chapters and main themes of the book. So you can give him a follow if that's something you're interested in. And it's the book is Resisting AI, an Anti-Fascist Approach to Artificial Intelligence. So it's sort of couples political theory with, AI praxis, and should be a pretty interesting read. I'm looking forward to it. The blurb here is AI is everywhere, yet it causes damage to society in ways that can't be fixed. Instead of helping to address our current crises, AI causes divisions that limit people's life chances and even suggests fascistic solutions that are in the style of fascism to social problems. This book provides an analysis of AI's deep learning technology and its political effects and traces the way that it resonates with contemporary political and social currents, from global austerity to the rise of the far right. I'm sure that many things will be discussed in here, but particularly things like content recommendation algorithms, I think, are particularly relevant, or job stuff or education stuff. So yeah, I haven't read it yet. I don't have any opinions, but it feels like it should be an interesting read. So one to keep an eye out for, and that'll be in August of this year if you're interested. I think you can pre-order as well. And it's from Bristol University Press, so academic press. And then also in the sort of, also in the sort of genre of political discussions and thought around AI praxis, is this article that is on my to-do read list, but I have not yet read. Refusal and Data Ethics, Reimagining the Code Beneath the Code of Computation in the Carceral State. I'll just read the abstract really quickly, and this is by Chelsea Barabbas, perhaps? I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. In spite of growing interest in ethical approaches to computation, engineers and quantitative researchers are often not equipped with the conceptual tools necessary to interrogate, resist, and reimagine the relationships of power which shape their work. A liberatory version of computation requires decentering the data in data ethics in favor of cultivating an ethics of encounter that foregrounds the way computation reproduces structures of domination. So basically this article is going to, talk about the way that, working with data, if you're, even if you are thinking about ethics with data, can still, take existing power structures and recreate them in a, robust and, scalable way that they may not have been able to otherwise. So the core themes are to provide a vocabulary for identifying and rejecting the ways that socio-technical systems reinforce dependency on oppressive structural conditions, as well as offer a framework for flexible collective experimentation towards more free futures. So this is really just sort of, again, thinking about different ways of talking about AI, and particularly if you're, you're just in tech and it's not really something that you think about, the political ramifications of your work. That might be interesting reads, both of them. And I believe this may be free to read, or it may not, and I don't know off the top of my head. I guess we can try to download open PDF in browser and see. Yeah. So it's just free to read. And I believe the book you would have to purchase, unless your library had it, so you could try to get it into your library alone. Some interesting papers, some interesting books. The next thing is reading. All right, so some of you may have seen a discussion around this. So there was a paper in the Proceeding of the National Academy of Sciences, which is a U.S. institution, which has a little bit of a weird reputation in research communities, because often research that would not have gotten published within a discipline can sometimes still get published at PNAS, and that isn't always because it's just thinking outside the box. Sometimes it's because it is the proceedings papers are a little bit hit or miss. Let me put it that way. There's some very good work that's been published there. I can think of the Stanford paper on, they replicated a lot of my earlier work on, and other people's, but I found out about it because they cited me, and I get notifications for that, so I can see like what the current work is. I believe their work on dialects and differences in word error rate across speech recognition systems was published in the same journal. But this particular paper, a little bit of background here. So I saw this and I just sort of didn't jump into the discussion because it's, I don't know. I was very tired and I had a lot on my plate. But basically it was a paper where they were modeling people's perceptions of faces and then, labeling or generating faces based on that perception. So like, what is the perception of an untrustworthy face? And I think that, if you have worked much in social science, you will immediately begin to question that that is a stable percept, across societies. I don't think it is at all. And, think about how that plays into things like, racism, sexism, etc. So, yeah. And the sort of the author's defense was like, oh, well, we're doing this and like our intention is to model perceptions. And a lot of the critics were like, well, okay, but you've built something harmful that is, likely to, hurt real people. And even if your intention is to model perceptions, it is very easy for someone to make the leap that this is actually modeling something tangible in the real world, even if it's not, if that makes sense, right? Like there's no most trustworthy face, right? Just like there's no most attractive face. Different people are going to be attracted to different things. So you can't, create a reliable representation of that will hold between individuals and hold across cultures and hold in situations. And even if you could, right, someone whose face is untrustworthy is, very probably still a perfectly trustworthy person, and untrustworthiness in this case represents some sort of large societal bias against them. Anyway, so that was the paper. And I saw it and I was like, well, let's go through this thread of, so Iris von Ruij, who is at, okay, you can see the mouse over, excellent. I don't know what their affiliations are, if any, but a cognitive scientist. Also, there's a patent application. That's something. That's something indeed. So that was sort of like the concept of the paper. So Iris says, given the massive potential for misuse of this type of work, one would think that the authors would take great care to prevent any possible misunderstandings. Yet already in their abstract, we can see the language use that blurs the line between prejudiced projections and objectivity. So here's this is the extracted text is the original paper's author's words. The diversity of human faces and the context in which they appear give rise to expansive stimulus space over which people infer psychological traits like trustworthiness or alertness and other attributes. And then sort of talking about, hey, can we do this with deep learning? And the predictive accuracy of our model approaches human inter-rater reliability. So they're saying that they're claiming they have a model that's very good at prediction, but what they are predicting is yeah, I don't know if I necessarily agree that this particular paragraph is very misleading. Wanderer says, don't you have affiliate? I swear I remember you having it. I don't think I ever have. I think if I were to become an affiliate, I'd have to stop streaming to both Twitch and YouTube, and I do to both. So I don't know. Maybe at some point I'll do that. Who knows? But yeah. So okay. So their point is that the saying that your model is reaching human levels of whatever it is gives the impression that it's being objectively very well performing. Iris says, so she's gonna talk more in depth about this point. Machine learning standardly talks about human level inference as the gold standard, but unlike perceptually inferring cats or chairs, personality cannot be inferred from faces. People project their personality onto faces. Here, scientific modeling hides pseudoscience. The importance of, and this is from the authors, the importance of face attribute inferences has led to a proliferation of techniques for scientific modeling of faces, which can be organized broadly into two approaches. So scientific modeling of faces is something that was a big part of the particularly nasty racial science that Europeans were doing to justify their subjugation of basically everybody. And there's a lot of like horrible, awful, incorrect things that are said around non-white people, and the scientific modeling of faces was part of that, right? So you'll see a lot of old like physiognomy. That's what Iris called it, what they called it. Was looking at things like I can, infer racial characteristics and their, it was a bunch of rubbish, right? It was a bunch of incorrect, false things that were being said and given this veneer of, subjectivity or objectivity, not subjectivity, in order to make people feel better about, crimes against humanity, basically, to be, very, very blunt about it. Anyway, so scientific modeling of faces has a history, and one you should really think about before going into this field, and I personally probably wouldn't. They continue. Some more screenshots illustrating how human inference is uncritically depicted as the golden standard to assess reliability, cf. Other areas of machine learning. Given that the authors are automating physiognomy, this kind of sloppiness is negligence, IMO. So, hey, our model's doing really well. It's approaching human levels. Of what? Right? Of what? And are those human levels themselves useful and interesting and helpful and good to have in the world? The authors actively blur the line between reliable perception and prejudice by suggesting it is merely a difference in degree rather than one of kind. They even place prejudice as an intermediate between objective and fully subjective, reinforcing the grain of truth myth. And this is, again, talking about, racism, basically, and scientific, veneers around racist thought. I see some people are taking offense at the term physiognomy. Why take mere offense at a term meaning inferring a person's character from their outer appearance than at the racism, ableism, sexism on display and the figures on the paper that were happily blasted onto Twitter? So you will be shocked to hear that there was, pretty clear bias in the type of photos that were, labeled as trustworthy, helpful, good, and the type of photos that were not labeled those things. Let's look at the ethical implications section. It starts by saying how the automation overcomes human artistic bias in image creation. There is no mention of the ugly history of physiognomy. It reinforces the grain of truth plus some lip service to white bias in data. So they say, importantly, while the primary goal of this work is to support scientific modeling, I often make patents when I'm just doing something to support scientific modeling. The framework developed here adds significantly to the ethical concerns that already enshroud image manipulation software. In contrast to traditional photo editing, which may be limited in effectiveness by the intuitions of a particular artist, this current method may be more accurate and at the least is faster and more efficient through its automation. Further, in contrast to other methods making use of deep neural networks such as deepfakes, which can affect the social perception of an individual by placing them into an unwanted or compromised context. Okay, so they're talking about that. So they're saying that their method is better because because it overcomes the limits of human artists in terms of photo manipulation, which I feel like makes it worse, perhaps. There's also a potential for our data and models to perpetuate the biases they measure, which are first impressions of the population under study and have no necessary correspondence to the actual identities, attributes, or competencies of the people whom the images resemble or depict. I think the have no necessary correspondence here that Iris highlighted is in service of this grain of truth thing that like, oh, well, we all know some women are dumb, right? So clearly, if you're labeling women as dumb, you're right sometimes. This is sort of general point she's making that is an issue. And the phrasing there. They continue. What is amplified in the images isn't just sampling bias, but rather a bias better called prejudice, concretely racism, ableism, sexism, etc. The suggestion that better sampling could make the model better erases the real problems and the real ethical implications. Here's a link to the paper itself. I'm not gonna go look at it. And she continues, maybe at this point you feel the authors have not optimally communicated their work and its limitations, but that the thing they made itself is not harmful as it just models human bias. But why automate it, automate prejudice, and put it out there in the world uncritically? I think that is a great question. Why did you build this? Why did you think that this is a good thing to spend time and effort on? And also, why did you patent it, right? Like, if you... Okay, so let's back up first. Patents are, in the United States, protection for commercial products, right? You get a patent because you want to sell something. So why have they patented this thing that they admit is ethically problematic in the first place? Well, I don't know that they admit that, but I think most people would probably agree that it is. Defenders of this work seem to want to claim that the work helps fight prejudice and de-bias people. But who is fooled by this? More likely, by automating, we reproduce, amplify, and normalize prejudice, especially if one can make money using and selling this method. This patent application strengthens the concerns as laid out in the thread. As Abeba Berhane said, what more evidence do people need? Abeba Berhane is a fantastic researcher. She's just so smart, really, great thinker. We're so happy to have her in the field, at least I am. And she says, to make matters crystal clear, the authors have filed a patent for data-driven, photorealistic social face trait encoding, prediction, and manipulation using deep neural networks. What good use is there for that? What non-malicious use is there for that? I can't think of one. And anyway, yeah. Iris says, it's not easy for scientists, psychologists, machine learning people, etc., to recognize the problems with a paper like this before seeing the patent. We've been here before, and sadly we'll be here again unless people start to really get the problem. Recall this, for example, and this is another link to something else. And they continue, the concerns that I and others highlight are not unfair or overblown. These kind of face processing algorithms are being adopted as we speak in the real world settings that can do real harm. And this is talking about facial recognition. But we also know, well, I know, that there's been an enormous increase in the use of facial generation technology for malignant uses. So one thing that came up recently, I don't have to link at my fingers, but was a scam where facial recognition software was used to generate faces for fake lawyers at a law firm. Because of course, if you've generated the face, you can't reverse image search it because it's not going to show up, right? It's a new photo. It's just not a photo of anything real. So you get around the problem of like stock image footage, stock images, right? Where somebody could reverse search and be like, oh, I see this is just like a picture that you search on the internet for and are using here because it is a genuinely new picture. Yeah, like what use are fake faces? I mean, sure, they may have some artistic uses, but also there are artists, right? There are lots of people who have spent a large amount of time learning how to create faces. I don't know, it creates problems of scale that no other approach does. Anyway, so that's the thread from Iris Van Rooij. So if you want to follow her, there's her @ I think it was well thought out. Luke says, I get regular emails from people with auto-generated images. Yeah, the scams are, they're out there and they're becoming more and more common. I don't know. Those of you who've been following me for a while know that I don't really use or like. That's not fair. That's not fair at all. I do use some computer vision technology, so particularly to like interact with my own photos. But particularly on the generative side, I really don't think potential benefits outweigh the potential harms. So another thing that's been going on Twitter a lot this week that I didn't talk about is people sharing images from Dolly or Dale, D-A-L-L-E, right? The new, basically it's a image generator attached to a language model, so you describe what you want and it makes it. And like all the examples have been like, oh, fun, cute, playful things, and I think it's interesting and it's cool, but at the same time, if you can't think for 4 seconds and come up with at least one horrible malignant use for that level of specificity in image generation technology and ease of use, then you probably shouldn't be working in the field, right? Like, just like off the top of my head, ransom notes, right? Like picture of a specific person, right? Particularly if that person has a lot of pictures available online and would be included in a language model, you know, having had something horrible happen to them, harassment, deepfakes in particular. Like we know that a lot of, mainly women, but other folks as well, have been non-consensually put into erotic videos and images that they had no idea was happening to them and were being generated using deepfakes. Image generation in particular has a lot of malignant uses, and I would say that they far outweigh the non-malignant uses, and I worry a lot about them and don't think we should be building them. And this paper is another great example of that. Anyway, next thread. Speaking of generation, so this is actually a discussion of a paper, and then there is a link to the paper. Yep. I've said my piece about generation. I think you already know, which is part of what worries me about large language models, because the limitation for large language models for people who are building language technology is that the information they generate isn't grounded. That's a problem for me if I'm trying to build a chatbot to sell you a train ticket. I need to know what times the trains are coming and give you a ticket for one of those times if I have tickets left. But if I'm, creating harassing speech, if I'm creating abusing speech, if I'm astroturfing, which is creating the fakes, a fake impression of popular consensus, so as opposed to grass turfing. Anyway, grassroots, sorry. So astroturfing would be the fake version of grassroots. I don't care if it's grounded, right? Like in malicious uses, it doesn't matter if the information is correct or not, because what I care about is volume. What I care about is eyeballs. What I care about is the appearance of plurality, whether that's in, misinformation spaces or harassment. Like, I don't care if, the horrible, nasty, harassing text that I'm producing and sending to somebody's email in an automated way, is correct or not, right? If I call them a slur that doesn't apply to them, I don't care, because the thing that I'm doing is harassing them, and that's still being done, So the bar for malicious use is much lower than it is for non-malicious use. Here, I feel. Anyway, Rachel, do you worry a lot about things? Yeah, I do. I surely do. Anyway, so this is a paper about making it easier to control the output of GPT being a large language model. The project is called LM Debugger, an open source interactive tool for inspection and intervention in transformer language models. And it's by Giva? And I don't know, let's pop this open in a new tab really quick so I can tell you the correct institutional affiliations. Oh, right, that's right, you have to open the paper. Let's open the paper so I can tell you the correct affiliations. All right. So Allen Institute for AI and the Bar-Ilan University, and then looks like Kevin Wong is an independent researcher. Oh, you have some on this paper. Anyway, LM Debugger built upon our findings from this work, other work, to provide 3 core capabilities for single prediction debugging and model analysis. So inspection, intervention, and projection. And this example, let me zoom out a little bit so you can see. I know it'll be a little bit smaller, but I think that what they're showing here is, oh, sorry, I know it's small. There we go. So I think what they're showing here is sort of classic gender debias thing where different genders are more heavily associated with different professions, right? So in this first example, so I'm guessing the little magnifying glass here is inspecting. The intervention here is upweighting and downweighting in this case, respectively. And then the projections are, I think, looking at things that are going to be near other things in the projection space or embedding space. So here in the first feed-forward network, we have the sentence, she is working as a, and here on inspection, the top, I don't know if these are ranked or not. I haven't read the paper. I've read the thread. So we have kindergarten, school, kids, elementary, teacher, and classroom. So I'm guessing that these are actually related words to the task and not necessarily valid outputs, because you'd never say she is working as a classroom, right? So they're saying downweight kindergarten, school, kids, elementary, teacher, and classroom to try and downweight that bias that she is more likely to be working in a caring profession. And then looking at the list here, we have lawyer, nurse, dentist, nanny. And then there's another round of feed-forward networks, and we're upweighting things like album, DJ, rapper, funk, music, song, vocals, punk, disco, rock. So these are all music-related terms. These are all educational-related terms, upweighting those. And then the next round, we see the top ranking was DJ, and then singer, lawyer, and rapper. Looks like lawyer is high here because it started out being quite high. And then the final output is DJ. So basically this is, tuning of the model output. So I'm going to zoom in enough so you can read well. But not so much that it's behind my head. There we go. And she, I'm guessing, continues. For a given output, it interprets the prediction across the network and the major changes applied to it by the feed-forward networks. So the feed-forward network is doing the upweighting and downweighting. This is done by projecting the token representation before and after the feed-forward update, network update, and the major feed-forward network update, sub-update at any layer to the output vocabulary. Ooh, one sec. I gotta move this around so I can see slightly better. I see that you've said something, Sensei. I'm just trying to make it so that I can see it good. How's that? Okay. It's interesting that they call it debugging when it seems like they are debiasing. Is that a correct understanding of what's going on here? Yeah, I would say that this example figure is debiasing. But I mean, the thought there is that bias is a type of bug when you want to, in this example, you want to generate music-related, I'm guessing, careers for this she and not caring-related careers. So this would be, if you are consistently getting the wrong type of career out in your sentence completion, I would say that that is a bug. But yeah, it's, what is a bug in generative output, right? Like, it generated something. Yeah, good question. It also lets the user intervene in the prediction process by changing the weights of the feed-forward network updates of her choice, e.g. increasing, decreasing, and update the produced music-related, teaching-related tokens. So this is really letting you fine-tune on the fly. Beyond debiasing specific predictions, LM Debugger interprets all the feed-forward parameter vectors in the network, providing an exploration view to study the concepts captured by these layers. Which is cool, right? You can look at things. And I'm not going to play the YouTube video, but you can, because I don't want to get a copyright thing. I don't know if that would happen. Maybe. Sensei says, okay, that's interesting. I'm on more of the software side of things, so it seems more like a problem with the data and not a bug with the code. It's a good question. It's interesting. So there's, it could be both, right? So some architectures, okay, so you have a bias in the data, right? So let's say you are looking at, you know, I'm trying to come up with a cool example with penguins and it's just not happening for me. So let me use a language example. Let's use the career example, right? Because actually the paper that I'm thinking of that showed this effect that I use as my go-to citation was on, it was men also like shopping as a paper. Anyway, so if you have an underlying process in the data, right, where women and shopping are used together more, so let's say you're training on like ad copy from the 1950s, if you use slightly biased data in training, often the model output will be more biased than the model input because specifically with deep learning models, your optimization function will have, been like, oh, it's signal, I can use this. This has some sort of useful property for the task that I'm being trained on. So there may be bias in the data, but that bias is going to be enhanced by the model unless you're specifically doing something about it. And this is a specific thing you could be doing about it. So it's a little both. And then talking about all the people who worked on it. Actually, let's check out a demo. Run a query to see the predicted layers. And let's just use one of theirs. So I suppose we can start by generating some examples and just see what that looks like. It's gonna take a little bit. That's the other thing about large language models. They are sometimes a little slow. Okay. Okay, what if I try trace? Will that work? Okay, fabulous. So, layer. The weather is going to be bad and so here are the top candidates for completion before the updates. So nod, like nodding, conclude, sorry, these have all been lemmatized, so they don't have endings. Helicopter, travel, livestock, probably encounter, incent, devise, perhaps, predict, observe. And then I think this is going to, this is a layer. What does it do? Oh, I see. Okay, so this is a dimension. So here we have heterogeneity, citizen, sees, travel, eve, pleading, defense, maybe immore, collect, probably guinea, sponsor, disadvantage, explanatory. I, as a human, do not have a great insight into what those things are. This is IHUD, interstitial, behave, agree, intend, MBUDS, eStream frame, TTBS streamer bot, Meron, Magikarp, skeleton. Okay. I see. Okay. Maybe they're going to be more coherent in the later layers. So just as a reminder, this is to complete. The weather's going to be bad, and I'm Luke says I recognize Magikarp. Yeah, but I don't think anything else in there was necessarily strongly associated, at least for me, with video gaming or Pokemon. So yeah. So Something says, that's cool, thanks for the explanations. Yeah, you're very welcome. And I'm going. So I think here going is the top candidate. And that is, oh, interesting. So between layers of 19 and 20, they changed from gonna to going, but gonna still quite highly rated. Gonna, not, going, not. Okay, so these are the words that they could use to complete the sentence, the second sentence. I'm going to take out the interventions for now. Okay, so the intervention that we did, it looks like didn't do a whole bunch. Citizencies, Eve pleading. Okay. I'm trying to see if any of these have like a strong tell each ad this letter and which story rescue. I mean, none of these seem very semantically coherent to me. This one has some words. They all have words. This one has some numbers in it. I know you can't really see it behind my head. And maybe also primordial. That's not English. Some of these are not English. Ogeneity. I'm guessing it's probably heterogeneity. Goodness. Antha. I don't know if this is a word piece of anathema or not. Sorry, I'm not particularly good at, I may be too good at anagrams, is how I would put it. The delights of dyslexia. Okay. And then if I went down to one of these, delivering, making, do. Okay, so this one seems pretty coherent to me. So here we have a layer, and the top tokens, based on the Logit ranking, are delivering, making, doing, submitting, conducting, providing, giving, treating. So this is a very semantically coherent layer. And this one is the, comma, dash, and, a, in, question mark. Okay, so I'm going to say this one is off. And this is the one that has like function words in it. And this is going, gonna go, went, goes. Okay, so if I turn this layer off, I should see, so that's this LD, level 21, D5, 7, 9. I should see that I won't get going after it, because I'll be de-weighting the thing that has going in it a lot. That would be my expectation. Do I have to do analyze again? No, that's not it. Well, okay, that's my expectation of how it would work, but I can't seem to get it to work. So, and then they have their Streamlit app as well. Anyway, that's the paper. I think it's a cool idea. I'm not having great success in doing the tuning myself. I think that this is maybe not the most user-friendly approach, but it's cool, right? And potentially useful for things where you need to generate language data. I would say that that is not most things, certainly not for me. So again, that is, the paper is Transformer Feet. Nope, this is the paper they were building on. The actual paper, nope, that's the paper they're building on. Is not available. Okay, well, okay. I guess it's okay that I haven't read the paper because I can't find it. Because this is not the paper. This is the paper that they were building on. You can see that this is not the diagram that they were using as their core diagram of the other paper. So where was this one published? Was it published? Good question. Anyway, sort of interesting work. Might be some good things coming out of that in the future. Maybe a good thing to keep an eye on. And then this was something else that happened to come across my dash. Was about this company called Cosa maybe AI. And their tagline on Twitter is making technology more inclusive of all ages, genders, and races. The tweet I saw was, AI is starting to play an essential role in candidate screening, recruiting, and hiring, so it's time to start ticking the boxes for AI compliance. And I was a little surprised to see this. So I personally would never use AI in candidate hiring because I think the burden of proof that you're not doing illegal discrimination is just way too high. So I don't know, let's just look into this one a little bit. Ah, nice. The last time I visited here, they did not have a security certificate, so they've fixed that. Also, this visualization is a little bit behind my head over here, is of a bunch of cogs, little mechanical cogs. And then in order to make the cogs turn, on the end of each of them is a little human being, literally working as part of the machine, which is not something I would have chosen to do in this context. But, you know, we all have our own choices that we make. So I'm coming into this extremely skeptical, but I want to see what they're claiming they can do. Cosa helps you operationalize responsible AI principles. Our state-of-the-art technology enables you to understand and mitigate AI bias and reduce risks. Trusted by, and then a bunch of their clients, NVIDIA, APX, I don't know what these two, IEEE, UMass Amherst, Technical University of Kenya, scaling SDGs together with Google. I'm guessing this isn't actually Google. Sensei says, I think your mindset is a little more ethical. Yeah, I hope so. I mean, my background is in research, right? So a lot of my ethical training has been research ethics, which for very good reasons in the United States, we have pretty strict laws. Well, laws, but also just like disciplinary guidelines around. And the good reasons are that a lot of people died and that it was bad and it should never have happened. And we can hopefully prevent it from happening again. Portia. Okay, so they have quite a few clients.
Say hi to Cosa.
Okay, it's a waving robot, very helpful. Integrate seamlessly into your existing environment. All right, so they'll, you know, work with whatever your cloud provider is. So they do a dashboard. That's what this is. Okay. Build responsible AI with help from our comprehensive solutions suite. Okay. 30% of revenues are missed from affected customers in the year following a data misuse incident. Yeah. So there's actually been sort of a trend in the US, at least, of activist judges requiring that if you train an algorithm with data that was gained illegally, you not only have to destroy the data, you also have to destroy the algorithm, which is fabulous. So a model or algorithm. So that's good. Yes, you shouldn't do data misuse. It's bad. I agree. I agree that it's bad. Wow. 1 in 6 digital talent loss is because top talents would choose to lose their position than help build potentially harmful products. Citation needed. So 1/6 of the people that leave their tech jobs do so for ethical reasons? Wow. I guess Amazon hires a lot of people. Up to 20 million euros, or 4% of global turnover and fines, can be applied to companies with non-compliant AI systems in the EU. So I think the legislation around this is really quite new. And also a lot of it happened while I was moving and was not really keeping up with things. So, we're industry agnostic. Let us know your use case: healthcare delivery, hiring, credit risk assessment, and insurance. I don't know that a human could do all of these, right? I spend a lot of time thinking about AI ethics. I would need a decade before I touched any of those. Jiminy Cricket. Okay. Interesting. I guess let's look what they're building. Multi-stakeholder whole ML lifecycle support. train, audit, monitor, explain. Okay. Our software has 5 major components: data editor, compliance checker, model auditor, model explainer, and model tool. We're modular and industry agnostic. Plug into any data warehousing solution or simply upload a CSV, and our software will help evaluate and mitigate AI bias towards different age, gender, and race groups or any custom attribute. All right, so they will tell you margins. I'm guessing that's what that says. That's what that is. Model auditor, get a model assessment before or after deployment to understand where you stand on our responsible AI index and understand the human impact of your models. I feel like the humans impacted by your models will probably have a better, better information for you there. Automated compliance check for the AI governance before deployment. Our smart traffic light dashboard will check for compliance with GDPR, DSA, and other industry-targeted regulations and enable you to collaborate with other teams to safely deploy your models. AI explainability. Why is the model making the decisions the way it does is no longer a mystery. Our explainable AI solution will enable all stakeholders in your organization to understand model behavior without getting too technical. Model monitor. Receive smart alerts when your carefully designed model starts to drift or malfunction. Our model monitor allows developers to debug and fix any model vulnerabilities and AI bias in their time. AI bias in time. Okay, so quick pass over these. There's no way they're doing all of these things. That's not fair. They're probably doing something that looks like all of these things. I would not trust this. Any one of these problems is a lifetime of work, and I just don't trust that they've done all 5 right away and in a way that non-technical stakeholders can understand, right? So great example for this data editor thing. So you're saying it's gonna work well for like every social context, right? I can use any grouping and you're gonna be able to like tell me the underlying bias? No, you'll be able to tell me like, I see bar charts that have 2 bars in them, so I'm guessing that you do some like EDA, basic EDA that you automate on the data set, which is like, that's fine. I probably wouldn't choose to use this tool and probably wouldn't recommend that you do either, but I'm willing to be proven wrong if there's, strong evidence that it's about it. I do want to see their FAQs though, I am curious. Not always. What is AI bias or algorithmic discrimination? Inaccurate predictions in the AI algorithm due to faulty and or poor data. The predictions reflect societal prejudices that are translated into the AI systems in the form of bias and discrimination against certain groups of people. For example, in 2015, it was found that the algorithm used for hiring employees in Amazon is biased against women. This AI algorithmic bias was present at its hiring data set, as its hiring data set was filled only with men's resumes. I don't think they actually used that. I think that paper was for a system that they were evaluating and didn't actually put into production. I think this is the men's lacrosse team paper. I'm pretty sure that came out around 2015. Also, I would say that the inaccurate predictions assume a lot of things have happened to create that prediction first. All of which probably are also biased. I don't know. This feels like a Band-Aid to make people feel better. And I don't know that it's actually going to make a change, but perhaps I'm wrong. Yeah. Where does AI bias come from? They're going to say it's just the data. Incomplete training data and prejudice assumptions made during algorithm development. The data used to train algorithms in the software based on historical data set that reflects the biases accumulated throughout history. For example, United Health's Optum AI system showed drastic AI racial bias, denying care to 46% of qualifying Black patients due to the inaccurate assumption that those who incur the higher costs need critical care most. However, Black patients spend less in medical costs per year than white patients, leading AI to make biased decisions. Also, there's some typos in here. For more information on the causes of AI bias, read more on our blog post here. Okay. Well, I hope they can do what they say they can do. I think that'll be a great boon for people, but I remain skeptical. And then this one. I don't know if we actually read this or not. This I saw a thread on Twitter, and I just had to stop reading it because it really upset me. I warned you that I put the things that were going to upset me last. And this was an interview with the Clearview AI folks. And let me see if I can find the thread that I read. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So this is just some extracts from the interview. You can see the whole thing on YouTube. And I believe that, yeah, this is also the landing page for the same thing. So if you want to watch the whole thing, you definitely can. So the thread was by Drew Harwell, who was the person interviewing the founder of Clearview AI. If you're not familiar with Clearview AI, it is a facial recognition software company that absolutely has your face in it if you are on the internet. So there's that. A few notable bits from my interview. The Hoan here says the same thing that Elon Musk did, that their 20 billion photos scraped without consent from the web is in the digital public square. They've refused to delete photos per Facebook, Google, and Twitter legal demands. So, like I said, if you have ever posted your data on those sites, the likelihood that they have your data in their software is very, very, very high. And they mostly work with military and police organizations. So, very cool. Says Ukraine has run more than 14,000 facial recognition searches, nearly double what they'd run 2 weeks ago. On them identifying Russian corpses, we didn't think it'd be important as it turned out to be. I'm not surprised that they have not really considered the societal impact of their technology decisions. And if you hadn't heard of this is rough. So I'm just going to give you a big content warning. But Ukrainians were using Clearview AI to identify dead Russian soldiers and send their pictures to their mothers. So that's what that was. He says that they have controls to ensure clients don't misuse the tool, but that they've gotten 0 direct reports of abuse. Is it believable that no one in more than 3,000 client agencies has run an inappropriate search? Sure ain't. Sure ain't. Anyway, Clearview AI is, if you gave me a magic wand and were like, you can make a company stop existing, they'd be on the short list, let me tell you that. It's a pretty short list, and they're on it. Yeah. Anyway, so this is why I put this last, because I knew it was going to make me really frustrated. Yeah, and then John Howard, who is a computer scientist at SMU. Simon Major. I don't know what SM is. What insight do you have into searches your customers run? So that's from the Washington Post. And then from Clearview, we can't see everything that's happening. I don't think it's our role to monitor every search, but we've never had any wrongful arrest or misidentification. Citation needed. Like, we're not looking at what's happening, but, we haven't seen anything bad, so clearly it's not happening. And then some additional fact checking for the interview from Jake Leperque, potentially, who is senior counsel at Pogo Watchdog, former fellow Senate subcommittee, works in privacy and tech. So let's just go over some of the fact checking. We've already got a correction to the note. So Clearview says Clearview AI was used to catch rioters at the Capitol from January 6th. Use spiked after the attack, but there is no evidence or public examples of Clearview AI catching rioters in the Capitol. False. Said that Clearview collects images in the public domain. patently false. Patently false. These are images posted to individuals post to social media with set limits on how they can be used. Clearview AI is scraping those images en masse explicitly against their site's policies and users' consent. Also, if you post an image, you generally retain the copyright, and public domain is a copyright thing. So if you want to know something that's actually in the public domain, it is data produced by the government in the, most governments will release their data in the public domain. So like census data is in the public domain. Things produced before, works of art produced before, I think like 1926 or 23 at this point. I don't know. Anyway, like there are very strict rules for what is and isn't in the public domain. And it's not just things that are in public, right? Like I can't, take down a billboard that's in public and take it home and say that it's my billboard now because it was in public. Says that Clearview AI encourages police to have a clear and public policy with rules around how face recognition can be used. In reality, it gives free access to individuals, officers/agents, encourages use from departments with zero policies or rules. And this is particularly concerning because of its clear use in, stalking, abuse, domestic abuse, finding people who might not want to be found for various reasons. Claims that Clearview AI matches have never led to an improper arrest. There may be no documented cases of this, but there's simply no way of verifying this claim. Most use of Clearview AI and other facial recognition tools are hidden from the defendants and the public. And there's definitely been misrecognition of individuals due to facial recognition technology. So lots of false claims being made by this company. And if you want to watch the whole interview, it is on YouTube, The Path Forward, Facial Recognition Technology, and this interview was done by The Washington Post. Anyway, so that's all. I'm pretty sure that's all. Let me double check my spreadsheet that I had for this week. I mean, it was a short week. And also I got completely, sidetracked by NVIDIA driver issues. Oh, wait, there is a blog post I missed. This one's going to make me upset too. Anyway, let me pop it up here. I think I just did it over something. So this blog post by Eric Jong, not entirely sure how to say that, about the machine learning job market in 2022. So I did miss one. And anyway, it's just talking about a lot of the things that people who are in machine learning are doing, and like pros and cons of stuff. Anyway, many of those companies I would not choose to work for. But I think this figure made a lot of rounds on Twitter, at least in, the sort of Twitter circles that I follow, showing sort of like the idea that eventually all of human thought, creativity, desire, cognition, physical intelligence, etc. will be distilled into a single large model, which I think is absolute hokum. And, sounds like something you would say if perhaps you did not have if you had perhaps more optimism, techno-optimism specifically than I do. I don't even think we're going to have a complete model of language, not even one human language, certainly in my lifetime, and I would honestly bet never. For example, does GitHub and Hugging Face capture human problem solving? And these are, he's saying that this is going to happen in the future. But anyway, another blog post. You can read it if you want. I'm not planning on it. I think I've gotten the gist from discussions on Twitter and, that particular image. But I will say, I think this is a pretty common stance that people have in the community, which is wild to me. And maybe it's because I have a background where I have a very, I spent a lot of time studying language. I've spent like about a decade doing study of linguistics in depth, and I don't know, the more you specialize, the more in depth you go, the more you realize, the vast sea of the unknown that surrounds us. And I just like, I really don't think we're gonna get there. I don't even think, I think there's a lot of unfounded optimism that is the result of dramatically underestimating the difficulty and complexity of things that people are modeling. But that doesn't mean the models aren't useful, right? So anyway, that's what I've got for today. And I'll probably do this next week. I don't know. This was fun. I enjoyed it, even though parts of it were upsetting. I'll try to keep the upsetting bits to a minimum. Congrats to Spacey. If any of you need a tailored NLP pipeline, maybe check them out. This isn't sponsored. I don't have any formal relationship with them besides I know people who work there. But yeah, I think this is going to be a great solution for folks. Yeah, so I think I'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much for coming out, everybody. I hope this was interesting with your time. My apologies if you were waiting around for me to fix my driver issues. It is fixed now, so hopefully it won't come up again. The computer I streamed for was in storage for many months while I was moving, so did not get updates. And I thought I'd got them all, but one sneaky one remained. So, yeah, that's all I've got. Thanks for joining. I'll probably see you next week. And yeah, have a great weekend. Bye.